What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? It's your boy StephenMotivate back with another political talk. Doing something a little bit different today. Want to really address some of the hot topics in the news. One of those hot topics being the comments that the beloved Janet Jackson made about Vice President Harris. So you think about this, like Vice President Harris, is she black? Is she not black? Where did that even come from? And that sort of misinformation is really I don't know exactly who sparked it, but who really lit a fire to it was President Donald Trump. So why do we see that? Why do we see misinformation as a thing? Well, in 2024, where everyone has a mic, including me, and everyone has a camera, it's very easy to just disseminate information and get it in front of a large audience very quickly. So there is no check. There is no federal check on whether or not what I'm saying or what anyone else is saying is correct or accurate. And so because of that, because there's no checks and balances, you get a lot of information out there that may or may not be true. And so Donald Trump and the Republican Party is playing up against that, right? The more misinformation that can be put out there, the better, right? J.D. Vance even agreed to this or admitted this.
The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast. You had one interview with her. You talk about pushing back against me, Dana. You didn't push back against the fact that she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said that you're creating a story.
Public policy.
Sir, you just said that you're creating the story.
What's that, Dana?
You just said that this is a story that you created.
He said that he created a lie because he wanted to bring attention to a problem. He knew very well that misinformation gets people going. So if I tell you that people are eating cats or dogs to highlight that there's a migrant problem, who cares if that's true or not? I want to talk about the migrant problem, or I want to create this fear and angst. And that's really what we're dealing with. So then you see someone like a Janet Jackson, who's a well-known figure, but probably isn't up on politics, or probably is not digging into the details, taking that misinformation. I don't know her political leaning, but she's taking that and she's saying, oh, well, isn't she white? Da, 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 which is clearly false, but that's the name of the game right now. And so the job you're going to have to do is try to sift through what's real and what's fake. So our spidey senses should be at like an all-time high now. You just because you see it on the news, just because you see it on TV, just because you see it on social media doesn't make it true. You've got to dig in, do more research to understand, oh, Kamala Harris has always identified as black. She's been working in the public for a long time before social media was this big thing now with all this, information and all the information wars of who can tell the lie the fastest, because whoever hears it first is what people are going to believe is true, right? Before that, she was already clearly coming out as black. So her race is not even it's not even a topic that really should be discussed, but it's a distraction. And it's because it's a distraction, because it's a lie, because it gets you, not focused on the issues, then again, it can potentially weaken her campaign, right? And that's the goal here. What can we do to weaken the campaign? What can we do to weaken the position? But oddly enough, the polls are saying that Vice President Harris is actually up. She's actually up in the polls recently. And, I always wondered, who are they polling, right? It's only a subset of the population, but based on who they're asking, more people are now saying they would vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, which is probably a reason why former President Donald Trump doesn't want to debate again, because it seemed to help her campaign more than it hurt his. What Donald Trump has going for him is that people know who he is. He has name recognition. he's got this persona that's in the public eye. And so because of that, we find that people tend to vote for things that they are familiar with. Even if it's completely wrong, even if he has shown himself to be very much uncouth, not having a lot of decorum, not being willing to follow the rules, willing to tell lies, just in a very like ignorant sort of way, not being dialed into the facts. And, some people like that. And that's kind of what he has going for him. If I can tell a lie and people say, oh, you're telling it like it is, that gets people excited. But is that really what we want in a leader? Someone who lies just because they feel like they're telling it like it is? That's not what I want. I'm not looking for a leader who lies, because it doesn't work in any other medium. You don't go to you don't go in front of a judge and say, yeah, I like that judge because he lies. Oh, let me get with that teacher. Oh, they lie a lot. Ooh, I really like that. Let me find them. It's never an attractive thing to be a liar. It's never been an attractive thing to be a liar. And so the more you realize that someone is spewing out lies, the less attractive they become. And so I think that's the whole thing, though. It's whether or not people realize the lies that are being spewed out, and all those distractions that are happening, right? If they are happening in such a way that, you can't tell what's the truth and what's the lie, then it more so pushes Donald ahead. But it seems like Vice President Harris has sort of stopped that, at least for the time being. She's tried to bring the attention back on what are the facts. Do we really want to be in front of a person who lies? Do we really want to be in front of a person who's talking about eating dogs and cats? Without fact checking these things, right? No, we don't. And so I think that's why she's starting to grow in the polls, because you got to fight through the misinformation to get to the facts. And that's what we're fighting today. People they think they know a lot of stuff, and only because they seen it on their phone. They seen it on social media. So there's a thin line right now. We're living in an age where there's a thin line between truth and between myth. And that thin line is the difference between whether we have another 4 years of Donald Trump, or if we have another 4 years of Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party. And so, that's really where things are at this week. I think that you also see some strength in the economy after the Fed cut the interest rate by 50 basis points. So that's giving a little help. You've got a lot of business people talking about Trump's tariffs. They're kind of confusing. At least I think they're confusing. He talked about 200% tariff on John Deere and potentially trying to stop them from building a plant in Mexico. Well, people started building plants in Mexico because there were so many tariffs on the manufacturing that was happening overseas in China. So there's potentially less cost to do it in Mexico. Well, now, he's trying to say that we need to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. And while that sounds good on paper, how realistic is that? How much of our workforce is really focused on those type of jobs? We do a lot of car manufacturing here, which is great. But we've never stopped doing that. And so trying to bring things back here or make things here, it's almost trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Do we really want that type of manufacturing? Sure, we may want manufacturing, but maybe we want the future of manufacturing, not what happened in the past. And so you see this tension of the Republican Party always talking about trying to do what worked in the past. Hey, we're going to drill. We're going to have oil. We're going to bring all the manufacturing back. We're going to go back to this time that was better. And in reality, I don't believe there was a time that was that much better, right? I mean, America has always been trying to progress and get better. And so we need to be looking ahead. And that's why you hear this talk when Vice President Harris talks about turning the other page. How can we get ahead? How can we look towards the future? Whereas the Republican Party wants to more so focus on, let's not, like, we're wasting too much money trying to build the future. We're wasting too much money trying to bring electric cars. We're doing, so there's all this angst and fear, and you see one is more on fear, the other one's built more on hope of what we can do, what we can be. And I think that's the major difference. And so if you're staying up on these things, my advice to you is dig into the facts. You got to know the facts. That's what we've always tried to do with political talks, is help you understand, no, there are facts. There are actual numbers. There are actual things that matter. There are actual statistics, records, history of how these things play out. And historically, at least I believe that, blacks have benefited more from Democratic policies than Republican policies. That can be argued, but that's what I believe. And so, and I know that's not, it's not very advantageous as a business person to say that, because you're going to piss somebody off either way. But the point is that when you dig in, these topics are not going to stop being important. This is our country. These are the rules that make it up. These are the people that are going to be in charge of the rules. And I just don't want a liar making the rules. And, it's been documented that the leaders that they have in place over there right now are liars. And because of that, it's not a good look. Maybe if they wanted to run another company and make it bankrupt, or, run some type of fraud organization that, then yeah, cool. Let them have that. Let them make as much money as possible. But when it comes to looking out for the little guy and the big guy and everybody in between, you're not going to convince me that these folks are going to do a good job of that. So dig into the facts. I know a lot of you are trying to understand, well, what will the Democrats do for me? What will, dig into the facts, find out what they're proposing. And you can look at some of our videos. We're going to get into some of that soon to understand the policy differences. But, just in the news today, that's what's happening in the political world. So I hope that helps you stay up on the news, cut through the misinformation. And as always, stay motivated. Peace.